There you go.
Oh, Max, hey. We went to Japan together.
Wow. Hi, everyone.
Hello. If you're not camera shy, feel free to put your video on. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know why
Hi.
it comes up. I don't know why it comes up Jeffrey, but it's Kathy. I don't know how come it comes up my husband's name.
No worries. Hey, Kathy.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to see if anybody else joins, and then we'll get started.
Got queens in the house. Nice.
Oh, I can't. It's hard to see the chat.
Upstate New York.
Nice.
Where's everyone coming in from? Vestal, New York. Nice.
I don't know where Vestal is.
I'm in Baldwin. This is Farah. I'm in Baldwin,
Oh.
New York.
Hello. Staten Island, Buffalo. Oh, Binghamton. Wow.
Very cool. Fresh Meadows, Staten Island.
Nice. Christine, where are you?
I'm in downtown New York.
Nice. And I am in Brooklyn. Hello, everyone.
We have a few more people coming in.
Okay.
Always, I was telling Sheila, like, let's just have a little bit of a warm up because people keep kind of coming exactly at the dot or. North Baldwin, nice. Sherry's in
Schenectady. Cool.
If you guys see me kind of going like this, it's because I have two screens. There's nothing really going on here except another computer. Okay.
I feel like I'm going to lose this chat. It's going to go away and I'll never get it back.
Hi, Jasmine, welcome.
Hello.
We got a picture or no? I guess Jasmine has a piece of tape on her.
Okay, can we start? Because everyone is so prompt.
I think so.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Damato, and my chat moderator is Dr. Christine Rosalia. Thanks so much for being here today. So the goal of today's webinar, well, today we're going to be talking about middle school ELLs for online learning. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will be able to identify tech tools to use with ELLs across the content areas. Hopefully there's something new that you haven't used before. And I think you'll have a lot of fun and be inspired to create your own Bitmoji banner if you do not have one already. So I'm going to start with my own teaching context, and the tech tools we're going to use are ReadWorks, Vocabulary, Edpuzzle. If you're excited about any of those, put it in the chat. If you've never heard of it or you use all of these, let us know. First I'm going to introduce each tech tool briefly, and then I'm going to show and share our Google Classroom with you so that you can view all of these tech tools from the student side. And I'll give you time to practice and explore. We'll have a brief evaluation at the end, but please, at any time, stop me. Christine's going to be monitoring the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay, cool. People are already using some of these. Excellent. Okay, so like I said, I'm here in Brooklyn. I have been teaching for 11 years, all in middle school. That's all I know. I also work as an adjunct at Hunter. I'm currently teaching 7th and 8th grade integrated social studies in ENL. So all of my students are ELLs, and you can see here in the little fancy pie chart that I made.
Structure is more important because it tells us.
Is that for me? Okay. So all of my students are ELLs. You can see on my pie chart here, I have all levels, entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, and lots of commanding. I have 6 classes that I see 5 times a week, 163 students, and over 15 native languages. So part of the remote learning process for me has been a struggle because there's just so many students, so much work to grade, so much time creating. I create 4 different lessons a day for my different grades. So it's kind of a lot. That was a learning curve for me, figuring out how to do that. So hopefully you'll learn some tools today to help you with your ELLs also. So what I really like is anything that has easily integrates with Google Classroom. I try to use a variety of tools, not Google Docs every day. I have found that in terms of participation and engagement, if I do Google Docs twice a week, you'll see it starts off high and then the participation level kind of drops. So I can't use Google Docs every day as much as I would like to. The highest success rate that I have is definitely Google Forms. I think a lot of that has to do with learners who are using their phones. I think it's easiest. So I get a lot of participation with that. Next, ReadWorks, vocabulary. The kids love Edpuzzle. Even my most reluctant learners have sent me messages, can we do that again? So I thought it was important to highlight that. I personally love Flipgrid, but the participation level hasn't been super, super high with Flipgrid as much as I would have liked, although I really like it. I also try to limit how many clicks the students are using on our Google Classrooms. When we first started, on the first day of remote learning, I was being very fancy and breaking out all of my tech tools and was so excited to try everything at once. I had a Do Now on Padlet, I had a slideshow, a screencast, classwork on Google Docs, an exit slip using Flipgrid, and it was just a disaster. I spent so much time preparing and planning and trying to make it engaging for my learners, and I had like 10% participation. So I found that as much as I can lower the amount of clicks that they're using and kind of give a variety of tools, it's not the same thing every day, I have more and more success. Christine, am I missing anything?
No, I really love that point where you're talking about how, try to curate things for the students, but keep it exciting as well. It's a tough tension, but I love it.
And then the last thing, if you're not using already Google Voice for calling and texting, I know colleagues before remote learning would say that they would give out their number to students through Google Voice for texting. And I said, absolutely not. That's crazy. I'm not giving a middle schooler my phone number. But actually with Google Voice, because it's not directly my line, I have had a lot of success texting parents, especially those who don't speak English, because they can translate all of the messages. And they can get the recorded voicemails, we can text. So if you're not using Google Voice already, it's not as scary as you think, giving out your phone numbers to middle schoolers. And I've had a lot of success with that. So these are things that I look for in choosing tools for my learners. Number one, it has to be free. Second, I like to think of all modalities. So all of these tools have audio support. You can incorporate vocabulary. There's opportunity for multiple choice and short answer. All of them integrate with Google Classroom. They're easy to score and provide feedback for the learners. You can monitor student engagement, so you can see, have they actually used it? Have they logged in? Are they watching the videos? And then you can also differentiate them. And Edpuzzle you can too. I didn't check it off because it's just not as easy as clicking a box as you might with the other tools. So I'll start with ReadWorks. This is an excellent free website that offers nonfiction and fiction articles. You can sort them by theme, content, lexile level, and students can actually listen to the articles as they are reading. I've been using this for years, mostly when I was like leaving sub-lesson plans or some additional readings for students, but now they've made it totally integrated with Google Classrooms and it's very easy to use.
Sheila, can I interrupt you for 1 sec?
Sure.
In the chat asked if you could put the slides in present mode.
Oh, sure.
Because their view will be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Good, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I also like it because it's easy to monitor student engagement and it auto grades the multiple choice. So you can see here, this is something I've used with my students. The article I think was about the Great Depression. It tells you how many multiple choice questions they got correct. And then the written answer is actually fantastic for scoring. I have found, you know, in Google Classrooms, it can be very tedious opening 32 documents per class, and even sorting through in Google Forms is a little tricky, but this is actually great. So if you see on this screen, the question here was identify 3 ways that life was difficult during the Great Depression. Here, each student, and it's on one screen, and you can click correct, 75%, 50%, 25% incorrect. So it makes it very easy for you to go through everybody's responses. And then there's a place here where you click the plus sign and you can leave individual feedback for each of the students. So I found that it's super easy to use. It's very user-friendly for us if you're sifting through, you know, hundreds of questions. Yeah. So that's ReadWorks. When you get into the Google Classroom, you'll have an opportunity to see it from the student side because I have assigned an article to you, but I'm just gonna show the other tech tools first. Oops. Okay, so a lot of people said they're familiar with vocabulary. Christine actually, and some colleagues, gave an excellent webinar about using vocabulary, and I'm sure she'd be willing to share more materials than what I have. She has an entire Google Classroom filled with materials. But the students continually tell me, and I have such high participation rates when I use lessons from vocabulary. So it's in fun, engaging hip hop songs that focus on both content and language. They have tons of activities for you to choose from when you're assigning it. And as you can see here, you can share it directly on Google Classrooms. First, the students will watch a video. It's a fun song. They can even read the lyrics as they're watching. And of course, we know that rap songs can be very challenging for ELLs because it's so quick, but there's actually 3 speeds: normal speed, slow, and then it's either slower or slowest, but 3 speeds so you can make it very easy for our ELLs to understand. There's some vocabulary, there's a vocabulary game, there is a short reading and questions, there's a quiz, there's a fun lyric lab that you can do with rhyming words that's really fun. But again, when I assign this to my learners, I don't choose all 6 activities at the same time because it just overloads them. And I've even taken, because the lyrics are printed for you there, you can take the lyrics, put that into a Google form or a Google Doc and create questions around that. So you can even, you know, instead of doing one lesson just on vocabulary, you can create your own materials with it as well. And the songs are really fun and they're good. There's a ton of different content on there. And again, from the teacher side, it's easy to monitor student progress and their engagement. So if you can see here, oops, for each of the students, that green bluish dot will tell you that they have watched the video, the score that they got for the vocabulary game, and the score that they got for the quiz. So you have a lot of chances to see what students are completing. Again, once you're in the Google Classroom, you'll be able to see this from the student side. And this is currently free because of COVID-19 for the next, it's a 60-day trial that you get. But it's honestly so great. I'm gonna probably put in a donors choose to have it next year for my learners, or try and convince my school to pay for it because they really, really like it.
Yeah, Sheila, I got something. I did it like 60 days ago, and I just got an email saying that they were extending the trial. So
You're right. I did see that too. Thank you.
Sure.
The last one is Edpuzzle. Some of you are familiar with this, but if you're not, it's a great tool because students can watch a video and they can pause for multiple choice and open-ended questions. It's, again, easy to monitor student progress and engagement. You can see here on this slide the way it looks for a teacher. You can see how much of the video they actually watched. You could see the score that they received on the questions. And if you have open-ended responses, you can also provide one-on-one feedback for your learner. Now, I think what's really cool about Edpuzzle is that first, there is pre-made content on Edpuzzle where tons of teachers from around the country have uploaded their own videos, and they have already pre-created their own questions that you can duplicate and assign to your students very easily. But you can also create your own videos. So one idea that I like is you can upload your own screencasted lessons and create questions along the way to check for understanding. So if you're not using something like Nearpod, which I know does this, this is a really kind of user-friendly way for the students. Again, I like to keep it below 2 clicks per day. This is a way that you can take something really big and kind of make it manageable for your learner. So in the example that you're gonna see, I screencasted a Brain Pop video. I love Brain Pop, but again, it can be difficult having the students, you know, in your directions, telling your students, click here, log into Brain Pop. And if you don't have the district-wide subscription, you can't give those quizzes unless you tell a student, oh, screenshot your quiz score at the end and then send it to me. It's just a lot of steps. So what I did here was I created a screencasted Brain Pop video and created my own question so that the students only have to click in one place. And then finally, a lot of times the videos that we show our students for social studies, I absolutely love using Brain Pop, but another one is America, the Story of Us, which is recreations of different parts of history in America, but the narrator talks so fast. So what would be really great here is if you uploaded your own video, you can add your own narration. Okay. Are there any questions about those tools before I let you kind of play around?
Those look great. I love your keep it down to 2 clicks. Danette was just saying that Brain Pop is free. So many of these technologies are free during the COVID crisis. And as we mentioned before, it looks like even though they might have said, oh, it's only free the first 60 days, it looks like they're keeping up the free services for us.
Yeah. And I love Brain Pop all the time, but I do think it is a little bit tricky in that the students, unless you have that district-wide subscription, the students cannot create their own account and then do the scored quizzes or graphic organizers. So a lot of times what I find myself doing is using a Brain Pop video and then creating a Google Doc with a graphic organizer or a Google form for the quiz, because students don't really have, it's not as seamless as I'd like it to be. I think Brain Pop is trying to make people pay still for the good stuff, you know. Okay, so I have created a Google Classroom so that you guys can see the student side of these 3 different tools that I shared with you. Oh, I had the code posted here. Christine, if you wouldn't mind just putting that in, thank you. You beat me to it. So for this, do not use your EDU or your school email address. Use your personal Gmail or another Gmail account, because it can be a little bit tricky. We're not all in the same organization. So I'll give you a minute, log in, and let me know when you get there.
And I can help too, Sheila. I'll kind of let you know when I see that people are inside the classroom.
Perfect. Yeah, if you want to just type in the chat, I'm here, I made it, I'm stuck, whatever it is.
So Laura asked about the URL. Just Google Classroom, but make sure that you are in a login that ends with Gmail. Cool. Jasmine's in. Maria's in. Fantastic.
So
And
what you can do from your email account once you're here is you can click in the box and you'll see this icon here that says Classroom. And then from there, click this plus sign and enter in the code, click Join Class, and then enter in the code that Christine put into the chat. Yeah. So first log into your Gmail account, then navigate to Google Classroom. Oh, I forgot. I can see people who are here because it's my students now.
Great. So if you want to actually even keep that open for a second, Sheila,
Sure.
I'll look back in the chat and see if anybody else needs assistance. Let's see. Okay, for someone with the name D. Rosso, was that okay now? Could you get in? Do we see? Let's go back to the participants again.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'll start texting you guys privately and see if I can help you.
I don't think so.
No, it's a lot to kind of manage
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot of clicking.
that, and then, but
Okay, Laura's here, great.
okay, then where to go? Okay. Can you show from your private Gmail those steps one more time?
Sure, from in the top right-hand corner,
Yep.
Click on Classroom,
Mm-hmm.
plus sign, join class. And then Christine, do you have that code handy?
I'm just gonna put it in more time for you guys. Okay, so once you're in Google Classroom, put in this code. Here it is again. So you're going to press that plus sign, and then it's going to ask you for a class code. If you've been in some of these other webinars that you see on your screen, like using music or assessment, it might be a little bit confusing. Again, just press that plus button. But I will keep chatting with anybody privately until you get in. So.
Okay, thanks, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you is my pride and joy is the Bitmoji banner at the top. I love, thank you. The Bitmojis have been such a help during remote learning because the kids really enjoy it. And when I changed the banner, they actually did notice that they saw it. So this is supposed to be me in my classroom with my beautiful puppy, Maya. But what I'm going to share with you, because we're not going to go over it today, it does take maybe, I don't know, it took me 2 hours because I wanted to make it perfect. But if you look at the bottom of our Google Classrooms, there is there's an area here that says how to Bitmoji Banner. There's an 8-minute YouTube video. The problem is, once you get started watching this video, you're going to want to spend 2 hours making your Bitmoji banner just so beautiful and detailed, because you really start with a blank canvas, but it's really fun. So have fun doing that, number one. Second of all, I will tell you, if you notice, it seems really, really dark. When you create the Bitmoji banner, I have tried and spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to lighten it so that it's the exact same color, and been on a lot of Google chat boards trying to figure out what to do. If you do figure out how to lighten the banner and make it a normal color, I'd appreciate it. Google says that they're just trying to make it easier for people to read. Okay, so inside of our classroom, this is the way that I set up my assignments for my learners after a lot of trial and error. The way that I thought in my mind organizing a classroom worked did not work at all. So the first week I had a topic with lesson 1, I had a topic, exit slips, lesson 1, exit slip, and it was just a disaster. Way too many clicks, too difficult for the kids. So what I do each day is I make each day a topic. So for example, today is Monday, May 5th, and then I'll tell the students what I want them to do, never more than 2 steps. So for example, all of the assignments that I created for you are about World War I that I'm working on with my 8th graders. The first step would be to click on our Do Now and use Padlet. If you're not already using Padlet, I think there was a webinar about it last week, but I have gotten my students really used to using Padlet, and I really, really like it because the students can see each other's responses. It doesn't feel like you're just on a computer on your own. So I'll just quickly show you. Again, Bitmojis everywhere. But I would start off the first lesson building background knowledge here. And then as students are answering this, you can see all the kids' responses. And then you can eventually train them to respond with one another, to one another, which I think is so helpful during remote learning. So they're not getting any FaceTime, but this is a way for them to see they're not working in isolation. So Padlet, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today. It's free to use, unless, Christine, do you know how many you get for free?
For Padlet, I think it's 10.
10,
yeah. I don't know if they're...
And so Padlet, because once we all went to remote learning, Padlet was terrible. It was so slow. It wasn't loading. I had to use Twitter for the first time to tweet at them like, Padlet, I have a paid subscription. Why is it so slow? And they actually fixed it, which was really great. So that would be step 1 for the first lesson. Step 2 would be using Edpuzzle. And again, this is an Edpuzzle that I created using screencast on my iPad. Sorry, it's just because I have a whole bunch of accounts going here. So you can see, and I'm going to give you time to play around with it. As you watch the video, you will see multiple choice and open-ended questions pop up. That's the way it looks for your learner, and then that all goes automatically grades. Okay.
So Sherry asks, if you create your own Edpuzzle, does it belong to the public?
Okay, I don't want to say for certain because I think there is a box that you can check to say make this public. Do you remember, Christine? Because I know you've used Edpuzzle.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you get that option where you can make it public, and then also have the option to make it private just for your Google Classroom. I will say that I think it always operates a little bit better when it's private. But I'll keep going. You know, I can multitask a little bit easier than Sheila can as a presenter, and I'll double check that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Tuesday, the next day would be a vocabulary lesson. Now, because we're not all in the same organization using an EDU account or all from the same school, I can't actually assign you a lesson the way that I would with learners. So you're gonna have to join, if you'd like to practice, you can join using a class code. So you can click that link, and I gave you the code right here. You can watch the video, play around with some of the different activities. So check out vocabulary. And then the next one is using ReadWorks. And again, log in with your Gmail account. If you have already created a teacher account, it can be a little bit tricky, but there is a class code here for you to enter. So the purpose of this is for you to see it as a student would see it before you actually assign it to your own. So I will stop talking and give you some time to play around. If you have a question, put it in the chat or call it out, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, Edpuzzle is not allowing me to enter. Let's see. It's because I have like 3 different Edpuzzle accounts, you know? Okay, let's see. My classes. Okay, so I think what happened here is that I had created the account on Edpuzzle. I added my class, but because I didn't have any students already in my class, I couldn't add you to my roster. So now I have imported you all here, and you could see I assigned the Brain Pop World War I video. Can you let me know, Annie, if that's working?
Good code calling. And poor Annie.
Sorry.
The other thing I would suggest to the others is that just refresh your Google Classroom, because there was that point where you weren't on Sheila's roster and now you are. So just do a refresh. Sometimes that helps.
Yeah.
And let me know how that's going through the chat. And to the question before, like I was multitasking, I went in to like my Gmail account and tried making an Edu puzzle, and I had that choice of making it public. Cool.
Thank you, Christine.
Got it. Okay, Annie says that it worked. Great.
Awesome. Thank you. And it looks like people were able to get into. Looks like people were able to get into this one. Okay, 4 people were able to get in. And I feel like I did not do a good job of explaining the ReadWorks necessarily, but when you are assigning work, you can assign it to specific learners and not the entire class. So you can choose work depending on students' Lexile levels, their interests. You don't have to give everyone the same thing. For this purpose, everyone has the same thing. You have this World War I article, but you can change who gets what. Okay, great. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, so I know I've been a little quiet over here, but I'm just giving you time to explore the different features on vocabulary, ReadWorks, and Edpuzzle to give you a chance to experience it from the learner side. So if there's any questions, put it in the chat, call it out. I will give you maybe about 5 more minutes playing around, exploring.
Sheila, we had a question about other systems that it might integrate with. I'm going to be looking around, but if anybody knows, in other words, the question is, you want your students to use Edpuzzle privately, but you're not in a Google Classroom. So we're looking for whether you can invite them one by one. Yes?
You can create a new class, or you can get the code.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a way for you just to share a link. Let me just play around with it and see.
Yeah, I believe that's true. So going back to Sheila's earlier point, she tried a lot of technologies at first and then was integrating them with this kind of idea like, what can my students do that will only be 2 clicks? So that's why you see her integrating everything into Google Classroom. But I suppose you could do the same thing inside of Schoology or any other system, even like a Blackboard, where you just kind of try and make it that students only use that one platform and then do one additional click.
Yeah, I thought there was something where you could just share a link to the puzzle, but
I think you see it, Sheila, when you're making the initial puzzle.
When you're making the content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And here's another question. Did you create the vocal words aligned to the video, or are they packaged?
Are those the words for the brain pop or the vocabulary? Either way, I didn't make them. They're not me.
Vocabulary. So yeah.
Vocabulary is already totally created. It is just another tool for me to use to keep the students engaged and learn the content and the language at the same time. And Laura has a question about Google Classrooms. So I actually have 6 different Google Classrooms. I do not have any co-teachers since I'm dually licensed. I teach social studies and ELL integrated every day. Each class has about 30 kids. Some have a little more. One class has 15. That's my smallest class. It's a class of entering and emerging 8th graders. So yes, it was a lot managing 6 different classes and trying to make it work in terms of my personal workload, to make content, create content that was meaningful, and also make sure that we're meeting, ELLs at all the different levels. Because I have, if I go back to my very fancy chart, I have a lot of students who are still entering and emerging. So 163 total of them. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to check in to show you guys the teacher side now that people have started doing some of the work, clicking around. I'm going to start with, what was the first thing I started with? ReadWorks. So if you're on the teacher side, now I can see that people have kind of just played around with these tools. They're getting familiar with it. It's probably not appropriate to show students names with their scores, but Howji, excellent, 83%. So this is the way that you would see your learners' responses with their multiple choice. And then the written answers here, again, I love it. When you see the graded responses, it's very, very easy to give feedback, and it's very easy to score them, because I know, and I'm curious for many of you, it's really difficult when you're scoring something in, let's say, ReadWorks, then Google Classroom. Then for me, I have to put it into Pupil Path or Schedula. So it can be very tedious deciding, sorry, Howji. It can be very tedious deciding what to score, what to make out of. Our school has kind of a wacky grading policy right now. Let me just see our assignments. I'm going to check in on our vocabulary to see how people are doing. Ooh, no students in this class. Oh, I'm not logged in. Okay, that's it.
I think this really gets at the point that even for us, right? Like you have to have that mindset of how can I make it just 2 clicks? And then also all the accounts that the nice thing about free accounts is you might be using quite a few and it can get, oh no, I forgot that was in someplace else. So
the nice thing about all of these resources is, and I know I've heard a lot of complaints from like parents who are like, we have so many usernames and passwords and all these different things. The students don't need usernames and passwords for any of these tools. They can click, and because they're preloaded, they don't have to deal with all of that other stuff, which kind of removes one of those barriers for them. Sorry. Now I'm having trouble logging in here. I just have too many Gmail accounts going at the same time. For Edpuzzle, let me see if it's possible that the roster needs to be updated. Let me just check one more time.
I check for Laura's in the roster.
I can't see because
Oh, she's in. Maybe it's because I was in my school account.
Oh.
So Laura, you're in the one that says Gmail account, yeah. But I have noticed even when we weren't in remote learning that be aware that the first instance of even with the 2-click kind of advice that we're giving you, that depending on the newness of the tool, it might give a little time for students to get in.
But Laura, your name is in there, so as long as you're in the Google Classroom here, and then clicking, and then clicking from this link here, this should take you to the Edpuzzle. Yeah. And maybe you weren't on the roster at first. Maybe give it a okay. Yeah, I have found with I have 3 different Gmail addresses: my Hunter, my school, my personal, and it can be a little bit tricky managing all of them, especially if you're logged into different ones. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah, I think I would add, like, this is why a lot of schools have ed technologists, or they have like these programs, like I think one's called Clever. At the same time, sometimes it's good as a teacher to have for you to manage it. I know that the flip side of that is sometimes teachers get frustrated with the ed technologist, like that they don't move fast enough. Nothing
and I think
but
from my own experience, what was really hard about Google Classrooms, and luckily enough, I had started working with my graduate students in the fall, becoming familiar with Google Classroom, but I've never experienced Google Classroom as a student. So it was really difficult for me to assign all this work. And then in my mind, it seemed so easy. But I was telling the students, I was constantly saying submit. I kept saying, click the submit button, click submit. That's not even a button on Google Classrooms. It's turn in. So now I have the turn in, like a picture of the turn in button that I'm constantly copying and pasting and reminding students. So I think that's been part of the biggest challenge is I don't know what it appears like on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this helps. Okay, so I know I hate to ask you to do too many things at once, but if you just want to kind of share out with the group, is there anything that looks interesting that you'd like to use, that you have questions about?
Indeed, it's always hard to kind of learn technology while you're following someone kind of showing you all the tools. You're getting good feedback on the limit of 2 clicks.
Okay. I don't see anything in the chat though.
That was private.
Oh, private.
Mm.
Thank you. Yeah, the organizing of the class, it was not, this is not the first attempt. It took a lot of reworking to see what really worked for them. Can students annotate in ReadWorks?
Very good question.
That is a great question. Again, I have never seen it from the student side, so I don't know for certain. But you're on the student side, so maybe you can see.
Maybe they could share their screen. We can look at it.
ReadWorks also has fantastic webinars. They're constantly creating new materials. So the way that I learned about ReadWorks using it online was through their own, their webinars that they had pre-recorded, which were excellent. They also have live webinars. So that's been very helpful to me. Oh, nice. Thank you. Students can annotate. Excellent. Louisa, have you been using ReadWorks with your learners?
Sheila, I'm going to look into ReadWorks and see if I can figure out how to do it as a student. I will get back to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I love vocabulary. Another nice thing about vocabulary is I was having trouble importing students from Google Classrooms, and I sent them an email and I thought for sure I would never hear back from them because it was the peak of everybody going to remote learning. But vocabulary got back to me the next day. Excellent tech support. I went back and forth with someone there who helped me out. It was excellent. Eileen, does Common Lit, I see you're posting about that here. Does that integrate with Google Classroom as well? Excellent. Eileen is telling us that Common Lit also integrates. I'll have to check that out. Thank you. We have more questions about the annotations on ReadWorks.
Can you remind us where we can find the ReadWorks?
I think it's step 3,
okay.
But I can also put it in the chat. Okay. Do you want me to put it in the chat?
Sure.
I figured out how to annotate. I put it in the chat. You just kind of, you know, drag the cursor, clicking it, so highlight it, and it gives you a choice to pick a color and write a little note.
So can you do me a favor, Sherry? And thank you so much for sharing. Can you submit your work and then I'll see on the teacher end if I can see that?
Oh, I didn't answer any questions or anything though.
Maybe she can share her screen.
Oh, yeah. I'm using a different computer, sorry. I'm watching and working, sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Louisa is saying we can see the student annotations, but let me see here. I'm going back to my dashboard.
Mhm.
View by student.
Hi, this is Louisa.
Hi.
Hi, I'm in Canada. So,
Wow.
when I watched the webinar that they gave from ReadWorks, yes, students could highlight and annotate, but I don't remember where, and I don't remember how you see, because I keep doing so many webinars and then I lose track of everything.
Mhm.
But
I
for
think
sure,
sorry, I think it's, go back into that article up at the top. Like if you have a student's article and they,
Annotated now, so.
yeah, up at the top, like there's usually like you could print or download, and it's not in that aspect, but it's just like a little icon that shows to like highlight and annotate, and that's where it comes from.
Passage.
I played around with it earlier with my co-teacher, because we're doing reading groups with this, and we're just trying to.
you might need to go into the individual student results as opposed to
Yeah.
the class one.
Okay.
Maybe. It's kind of like a little flag up at the top. It's like a little, I don't know, strange.
How about going
Shape.
into one of the students and then actually clicking on the text? Does that do anything for you, Sheila?
I can't see the text.
Mm.
Oh, passage highlighted. Ah,
Yeah.
this is
So
my
there's-
annotation. Excellent.
So it did work. Yep.
Great. I love the team troubleshooting there. That was awesome.
It's a nice thing about having a small group. So
Mhm.
by all means, like well, first let's just recap that.
Yeah. So in order to see student annotations, you would go to your dashboard, find your class. This is the name of our class. Click on student progress. And then I went to Sherry's. Thank you. Clicked on the article, passage, highlighted, and we can see her annotations here. Excellent.
And to make that, Sherry, you just moused over the part that you want and then clicked. Is that right? From the student side of things? I think I saw in the chat that people were saying you just highlight with the cursor.
Yeah.
So this is the teacher view, but as a student, exactly, you just highlight the piece that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I just highlighted, I just cursored over it with the, pressed down, dragged it, lifted up, and then a little black box with an orange circle, green, purple, and blue show up, and a little like speech bubble. So I pick the color and you click on the speech bubble to write.
Excellent.
So.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for the collaborative nature of that. It's like my first collaborative activity I've done in online learning in quite some time.
Exactly. It's nice to, again, I think if you can do this like live with your students too, it encourages them. Quite a few people said like, it's nice to think about the student's perspective, but sometimes it's hard to get. So anything we can do to make the learner think, oh, it's not me, this is new, and it's not always as intuitive as we hope. So it's good to do as much as you can live, yeah?
Yep, I agree. Thanks, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, News ELA is also a great tool. I really like them. There's something about ReadWorks I really like though with the grading of the short responses that makes it so user-friendly for my 163 entry. Hopefully I get 163 entries a day. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So this Google Classroom is available for us to use to share resources with one another. I did put our Google slideshow here if you want to take a look at it. You can also share on the stream any other great resources that you found or anything that's working for you. Again, I'm not an expert. This is just something that's been working for me over the past 6 or 7 weeks. So with that, I will kind of end here. I think, unless anybody has anything else. And I'm just saying here, this is on our slideshow. Keep in touch. Let me know what is working with you and your middle schoolers. And before you go, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm going to put it in the chat here and also post it on our stream. Please complete this evaluation for me to help me become a better webinar host, I suppose. So if you can, before you leave, take a few minutes, complete this evaluation. Thank you all so much for coming. It was great working with you and not just me talking at you. I really appreciate that. Christine, you're awesome. Thank you for moderating that chat for me.
Not at all. I'm putting in some class codes. I hope that didn't get too confusing, but at the start of our webinar, folks had wanted to have access to other Google Classrooms. What I'll also do with Sheila is I will save the chat, and you guys can do that too. There's like 3 little bubbles at the end of the chat to get those codes. And if there's anything that we missed, we're put that out through the classroom or send an email.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. Maybe I'll post them to the stream so that people can see, because Christine and her team have created a wealth of resources about using music in the classroom and also using Google Forms. Do you have another one?
I think that, so we did revisiting Google quizzes. We did using music in the classroom. Trying to think if there's any others. But
I agree. Christine, your webinars rock.
Back at you. Well, Sheila has helped with a lot of them, and I think that it's really great when we use a Google Classroom afterwards, because then you can kind of look, like Sheila has that great, I'm going to watch it, video about how to use Bitmojis in your banner. And we just learn it's a real community of practice when we start using those. Like I said, I think it's hard in a webinar to kind of follow everything. So if it was a little bit hard for you guys, don't mind. Like that's pretty normal. I think from my learner perspective, it's hard to always follow what someone's saying in the speed.
Oh, yeah. Christine's going to post all of the codes for her, or I can post them too, actually, because I was at them.
Give the link to Google Forms. Oh, CTE credits.
Oh, that is in our Google Classroom. If you scroll to the bottom under classwork. Oh, 2 great things I should mention. I should have mentioned this earlier. New York State TESOL has created Google Classroom student tutorials in 10 languages and is continuing to add. So if you need those resources for your learners, New York State TESOL made those. And there's also the link here for the CTLE credit, if that applies to you, if you are a member. If you're not a member of New York State TESOL, I happen to be the co-director of membership recruitment. Join now for only $20.20. We're planning a fantastic conference, a virtual conference, our big 50th anniversary this November.
Okay, and I think I have now the 3 Google Classrooms that I've made with Sheila's help. That's perfect. I think the other kind of thing that we were trying to do new in presentations, and I think Sheila covered it also with her survey, but since we have we ended in decent time, if anybody wanted to suggest a coming webinar.
It's actually in my evaluation form, Christine.
Okay, perfect. On Wednesday, I'll be doing a webinar with Maria, who I see is on this call, and 2 other great teachers on Book Creator, but we're going to try, and I think as the webinars go on, some feedback that we've gotten is people want a deeper look, or they want, like Sheila did, like, this is how I'm using it, and here's some more student samples, or how to get it going. Cool.
Okay, I put all 3 of your codes there. Was there another one?
There was, but it was the very first one that I did, and to be honest, I think not that good. So, but yeah.
Revisiting Google Classroom. No.
Let's see what the first one was. Way back on March 18th. Let's see. I'll give you guys the code, but I think that it's the weaker of them.
So the Google Forms was Revisiting Google Quizzes, April 15th. Yeah. Okay, and also one more time, if you could please share this complete this evaluation if you haven't already. Thank you so much.
Great, and a big thanks to Sheila. Again, it's so valuable to see real teachers work in their classrooms. A huge contribution. What else to mention, Sheila?
Okay, also, if you are not a member of New York State TESOL yet, we are currently in award season. So if you'd like to nominate an outstanding ESL teacher that you know, recognize an excellent ESL student that you know, all of that information for the awards can be found on our brand new website, nicetesol.org. There is a list of all of the webinars that are coming up. There is also, I want to show the spot for the
student awards?
Yeah, the awards. There's a spot here where you can see for contests, grants, and awards. Those just opened up today, I think. So take a look, nominate someone you know, sign up for another webinar, join for only $20.20.
I think we have some super users too, like go on and I know Sheila made this look super, super easy, but you know, I think we need more and more presenters as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's like school. If you end a class early, I think people are usually pretty delighted. But if you guys have any questions, otherwise we can all take a stretch and see you next webinar.
Thank you, everybody. What a lovely afternoon. Now I have to. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And thank you for letting us share your work. Thank you.